Hi, everyone. Time to learn some new Tier 2 words. This week's words are some of my personal favorite. You have rapport, laborious, ingenious, dispute, perception, and egotistical. Your first word is a noun, which is rapport, not report, rapport. T is silent. And this is a noun that means a relationship built on trust. So it is actually another way of saying you have a solid relationship. Okay, you have a rapport, and it's a rapport is a relationship that's built on respect, the fact that you can trust the person. It's not like this I love relationship. It's a I trust this person and value them as a human being. It's a bond or a connection. And I like to say that I think I have a decent rapport with most of my students. Along with a lot of other people. You can have rapports with coaches. You can have a decent rapport with somebody that you work with. Okay, and it's just that relationship built on trust. You can talk about relationships between characters and relationships between groups of people in social studies. I love this word, rapport. This is probably one of my all-time favorites. It's laborious. It's an adjective. I like the base word of labor because that's how you will remember it. Manual labor is something that requires a lot of work, so it's laborious. Okay, it requires work. You have laboriously, and this is another way of saying something is challenging, strenuous, or difficult. So if you're like, oh my gosh, this health project is difficult, you can say, oh, this is so laborious. You know, you're writing a research paper pretty soon. This is so laborious, okay, because it takes a lot of effort and a lot of work. Okay, something that's a conflict or a character is doing something, it can be laborious. Creating the government was a laborious task. Anything that is challenging can be called laborious. Dispute is a verb, and it means to argue or debate about something. If you're disputing with somebody, you're arguing with them. If you've disputed something, you've argued about it. It's a disagreement, a quarrel, or you're bickering, okay? So, you know, if you got into a dispute with your sibling over which band is better, that would be, you know, I got into an argument, okay? Social studies, it's any war or conflict between people. English, it's also a conflict. You know, the greasers were disputing with the socias, et cetera, et cetera. Perception you should also remember from the unit in the beginning of the year in terms of if you really knew me. Perception is a noun that means it's your opinion is based on what you've observed, okay? It's how you perceive things, okay? If you're perceptive or perceiving, it's your perception, okay? So some students have negative perceptions of themselves because they have low self-esteem. My perception on snow might be different than somebody else's perception of snow just based on my age and my experiences. This is a character trait. It's one of the big concepts in your outsiders unit. And then the U.S.'s perception in various conflicts determines how people feel about certain events in social studies. Egotistical. Oh, love this word. You got the base word ego. It's an adjective, and it's basically an exaggerated sense of self-importance, which is a really long way of saying you think you're better than somebody else. Somebody who's egotistical walks around like, I own this joint, and what's the hip term? Swag. Yeah, those people are egotistical. They think they're better than somebody else, okay? They're conceited, pompous, vain, or pretentious, okay? You have egotistically the same thing. Any player that thinks he can win games without his team members is egotistical. It's a character trait people have. The U.S. definitely was a little egotistical going into the Vietnam War because they had never lost a conflict, and they got their butts handed to them. And then the British were pretty egotistical because they were fighting the colonists, and they were like, no way we can lose this game. You know, so anybody who is really kind of conceited or vain or just generally thinks they're better than somebody else is egotistical. The next word is ingenious, and it's an adjective, and it means cleverly inventive or resourceful. I like the sentence. It says the person who invented text messaging was ingenious because they created something that everybody uses, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is such an imaginative and creative way of doing something. And if you have a character who's ingenious, it just means they're kind of really smart and gifted and like can problem solve in really interesting ways. Social studies, you have inventors, and in health, anytime you're brainstorming ways to solve problems. All right, you have some really great words. I hope you like them, and I can't wait to see them in your writing. See ya.